All right, welcome everybody to the Lakers Legacy Podcast, where, as Harvey Dent once said in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, the night is purple and goldest just before the dawn. The Luka Doncic, that is. Because Luka Magic is here to stay in the purple and gold after signing his new 3-year, $165 million max extension, and doing so on Kobe and Gigi Day 8-2, no less. I'm your host, Jonathan Hernandez. Happy Luka Laker for Life Day, or Luka Laker for at least the next 3 years Day. It's lit. It's Luka lit. So today, you guys already know, big day in Lakers Nation. Luka signed a 3-year, $165 million contract with the Lakers. He has a player option in 2028. He'll be making $51 million in 26-27 after his current deal is up this next season. In 27-28, he'll be making $55 million. And then in 28-29, he has a player option for $59 million. But he can opt out that year. And because he'll have 10 years of NBA experience by that time, he'll be able to sign a new crazy supermax deal with the Lakers that will make him one of the first NBA players to hit an average annual mark of about $80 million per year. So almost $1 million per game he plays if he's able to play 82 games in the season. But for all intents and purposes, huge monumental day for Lakers Nation, for Luka Doncic fans, because this solidifies their partnership in more ways than one. Everything was sort of leading and culminating up to this point. And to be honest with you, $55 million for Luka, $51 million in 26-27. This is a steal of a deal for the Lakers. By comparison, Devin Booker is making $57 million in 26-27 and $61 million in 27-28. So Devin Booker, who is about 3 years older and obviously not as good as Luka, will be making $6 million more than Luka in 26-27 and 27-28. So the fact that Luka is on a $50 million deal per year is crazy. The fact that the Lakers were able to get this done and out of the way on the first eligible day they were able to sign Luka Doncic is huge. Make no mistake about it, this is another one of those pivotal, monumental Lakers legacy sort of days for the franchise. And what a difference 6 months makes, because looking at Luka Doncic in his presser today, that big grin on his face, it was such a stark contrast from his first introductory presser with the Lakers back in February when, he was still a little bit downtrodden. I mean, you look at the picture right now, he looks a lot healthier, I think, both physically and mentally. He's in the right headspace, and the Lakers and Lakers Nation and Lakers fans are in the right headspace. So for today's episode, let me just run through the agenda really quick. And also let me know you guys are listening in the comments. Super chats are always very welcome. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel at Lakers Legacy Pod. If you're watching this via YouTube, jam that like button, please. Comment below, help drum up the engagement. So for today's episode, let me just throw up the agenda real quick. So obviously, I'll give my initial thoughts and reactions to the Luka signing, how important it was to get his commitment. And then we'll go through some interesting quotes that came out of his presser and the Dave McMenamin article with the context surrounding his signing. I want to get into some quotes because I think it sheds a lot of light into what went into this decision from both sides, from Luka's side and also the front office's side, and what this means for the front office moving forward as it pertains to moves. And then lastly, I do have tail end of this show, I do have some hypothetical all-in marginal trades to workshop now that we know for sure that we are building around Luka Doncic, which is a huge thing to know for sure about. That's not English. Okay, so that's the agenda for today. Let me just bring this awesome Luka Doncic image up, and I'll just read it really quickly. Let's get things started. Luka Doncic, in his own words, "This is an amazing organization, and I truly believe in what we're building together. I'm going to keep working as hard as I can to bring another championship to Los Angeles and to make Laker Nation proud. This is just the beginning." And if that doesn't give you chills, then I don't know what will or what would. So yeah, very exciting stuff that Luka was able to give such a fervent and adamant commitment to the Lakers today and do so with a huge smile on his face. You could tell that the weight has been lifted off of his shoulders from all of the bombshell that was the Dallas Mavericks trade and all of the things that went down in the aftermath of that, with them sort of throwing him under the bus and everything like that. But now he feels at home. I think it's finally hit him. He's had time in this offseason to sort of obviously get himself right in more ways than one. And so, yes, Luka for life, the Los Angeles Lakers. We are here. I guess, I don't want to ramble too much. I'm not going to say I don't want to say things that are rote and that people have already said about this deal and keep reiterating that this is huge. So I think I'll just jump into some of the quotes from Dave McMenamin's article. But before I do that, though, I will say that I don't think this was too much of a surprise for anyone, even with regards to the recent rumors from sources saying that Luka was largely expected to sign this deal today. Even without that, if you just looked at the Lakers offseason, I don't think this was too much of a surprise because Luka Doncic had his fingerprints all over the Lakers offseason moves, from the DeAndre Ayton thing and the Lakers knowing beforehand that he was going to ask for a buyout, to the Marcus Smart recruiting. Honestly, even take it back to the Mark Williams thing back in the trade deadline when Luka Doncic, quote unquote, handpicked Mark Williams and the Lakers actually executed that deal for him. I don't think this signing should have come as too much of a surprise. And Luka Doncic said it himself, like he's doing this with the utmost surety. It was a very easy decision for him. I think verbatim, that was his words. But yeah, now it's confirmed this partnership with the Lakers and Luka is a full-blown partnership, and Luka will have a hand in everything Lakers related, for better or for worse. And what's crazy is we've got Luka Doncic smack dab in his prime in a Lakers jersey. He's motivated. He's pissed off. He's in the best shape he's been in the last 3 or 4 years at least. And he has 6 years of experience under his belt, having tasted a bit of the pinnacle, having gone to the NBA Finals, but still not yet achieved it. This is going to be fun, crossing fingers. And so, yeah, let's get into the quotes now, because I think that will kind of help lead the show a little bit. So let me bring up the first quote. 1 second, guys. All right. So this was from the Dave McMenamin article that came out right when Luka announced his extension talk. So in Luka Doncic's own words, "I don't want to wait. I had a taste of the finals. I am getting back there. So let's do whatever we can now." So obviously very encouraging words from Luka, very exciting words. These are the type of things that Lakers fans want to hear, very Mamba mentality-esque, right? And again, the fact that he did his extension today of all days, 8-2, it would have been crazier if he had done it last year, 8-2-24. But for all intents and purposes, this is Kobe and Gigi day, right? The fact that he was able to sign this extension today on 8-2 of all days is crazy. A Lakers extension on 8-2, the only way it would have been more perfect was if, Kobe and Gigi were actually here to witness it. But having said that, I don't want to wait. I had a taste of the finals. I am getting back there. That is exactly what you want to hear. And I know the initial thing that Lakers fans want to go to when they hear those words is, Rob Pelinka, are you hearing this? He says he doesn't want to wait. He had a taste of the finals. He wants to win now. And to that, I'd say, guys, Rob Pelinka knows this. In fact, it's funny how conveniently fans forget that Rob Pelinka knows this so much that he almost crippled this franchise by going in for a win now move at the trade deadline, because he tried to give all of our remaining assets up for Mark Williams. That was a quote unquote win now move. I guess it was a little bit of a win later move because Mark Williams was a younger player, but given his injury history, I mean, Rob knows that Luka wants to win now. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I know when fans see Luka saying that he doesn't want to wait, he wants to win now, the next thought in their head is, Rob, are you listening? You better do something. And to that, I'd say, no, Rob gets it. What I want him to do now is just make the smartest win now move possible, because the deal that he pulled off at the trade deadline, and granted, it was sort of handpicked by Luka Doncic. I think both parties realized that with that Mark Williams deal, that they kind of got out ahead of themselves. They kind of jumped the gun, and they shouldn't have. Rob shouldn't have given up all of those assets from Mark Williams. That would have crippled the franchise, and I'm not sure we'd be here today with Luka Doncic signing his max extension if we had kept that Mark Williams trade on the table and not rescinded it. So, yes, Rob knows that Luka wants to win now, because he actually made a win now move by giving up all of our assets from Mark Williams at the trade deadline. So now the question is, what are the best win now moves at our disposal now that we know that Luka Doncic is the face of the franchise moving forward? And I think the most encouraging things that I sort of read from McTen's article was just how deeply entrenched both of these parties now are in this partnership. Just look at this quote up here. After Lakers president of basketball operations and general manager Rob Pelinka and coach JJ Redick took Dončić and his business manager Laura Beth Seeger to dinner in May, the 6'6" guard left with a greater understanding of the team's books, the salary cap, and the team left with a better understanding of Dončić's desires. The fact that they gave Luka Doncic a crash course on their accounting books, on the salary cap, on what they were working with during dinner, that's crazy. And that's highly encouraging to me. Let's move on to quote 2, because I think this sort of illuminates further the partnership that's going on here and how excited Lakers fans should be. Pelinka and Redick used the dinner to examine future cap space, the picks they owned, the picks they didn't own, and to discuss how to tackle their future together. Dončić was encouraged to share the archetypal players he felt the roster could use: a pick and pop guy, a defensive stopper, a rim protector, so the Lakers could identify realistic players to fit that mold. The fact that they had this type of dinner, the fact that Luka actually knows at an intricate, nitty-gritty level, more than the fans do, the type of money, the type of assets that the Lakers are working with, and where they probably draw the line in giving up those assets, that's crazy. That's like, it reminds me of when LeBron James first came to the Lakers and Clutch was so heavily involved with everything and every move that the Lakers were doing. And we saw all of this come to fruition already with the DeAndre Ayton signing, with the Marcus Smart signing. It's honestly, it's all coming together. And just to get the context behind where this was all already leading to with this partnership with the front office, I mean, the fact that JJ Redick is there as well and Luka Doncic, it just allows us to head into the start of this season with our best foot forward. We can just focus on the season. I mean, we've pretty much filled out our roster, right? So I think this is going to be it. But having said that, now that we know Luka Doncic is 100% locked in and locked up for the foreseeable future, that also, I think, just helps clear the front office's mind. And I'm not going to say a deal is imminent, but I will say the possibility of a deal has increased for sure, because now they know what they're working with. And I think, obviously, again, I think it was already heading this way, but just to get pen to paper, I think is a huge deal. So let's move on with the other quote here. While the team's aversion to offering free agent forward Dorian Finney-Smith a deal that extended beyond 2027, while that aversion left some around the league with the impression that LA was preserving cap space to go after a big name in free agency that summer, a source familiar with the Lakers' thinking insists that their strategy is motivated by flexibility and not pining for another potential star. And Rob Pelinka actually reiterated this in his press conference with Luka. And I think Luka Doncic knows this as well. Obviously, it would be nice to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. Obviously, it would be nice to get a Nikola Jokic, but that's not the sole primary goal. If the Lakers can get a marginal move beforehand for several starters, or even like two lesser starters, I think they will gladly do that if the deal makes sense. But I think the deals are going to make a lot more sense now that they know they have Luka Doncic in tow. And I think the biggest thing that this partnership does for the Lakers front office is they can go into negotiations now not looking as desperate. You know, teams can't dangle it over their heads that like, hey man, you need to make this deal to appease Luka. The front office can say, hey, Luka knows exactly what we're doing. He's locked up. We are working on everything together. So the Lakers don't have to rush into giving up 2 first-round picks for Jeremy Grant type deal just because they have to show Luka that they're doing something, you know? When fans complain that like, hey, Rob, Luka wants to win now, you better do something. He has literally been working with Luka very closely. So don't worry about that. So this is what I'm most encouraged about from today's gatherings, outside of the obvious that obviously Luka is a Laker for the next 3 years for sure. And he looks a lot happier and motivated to be a Laker. It's a very exciting time in Lakers Nation. But when it comes to just like the front office aspect of things, that's what I'm most excited about. And you know, there was I wouldn't call it a report, but I forgot. Sorry, I apologize. I forget which Twitter account posted it, but essentially the sentiment was that the Lakers were apparently holding off on making a pivotal trade until they knew that Luka Doncic signed his extension, right? That was the thinking. I don't know if that's actually true. I don't know if that person actually had sources. I honestly don't care because to me, that rationale makes total sense. Why would the Lakers give up their 2031st first without knowing for sure that Luka Doncic is here to stay and is committed for the next 3 years? So when fans all of July were complaining, I can't believe Rob is not going to trade the 2031st first. I can't believe he's just thinking about Giannis already. Like, it just shows how disconnected fans are to the reality of things. It's like, just take a step back and let's think rationally for a second. Why would they trade the 2031st first without knowing that Luka Doncic is going to be here? And in fact, if anything, again, I go back to the Mark Williams deal. They almost did the most foolish thing they could do by going all in on a Mark Williams trade and mortgaging the franchise's future at the deadline without Luka's full-fledged signature. Now, obviously, again, Luka Doncic handpicked Mark Williams, but it's your job, Rob Pelinka, to make sure that you're not giving up every asset that we have for Mark Williams just to show Luka Doncic that you're ready to win now. You know what I mean? We have to be smart about our win now moves. And so I think that the Lakers took a step back from that moment, and thank God that they did. Obviously, they rescinded the trade, but I think they kind of refocused and reframed their planning around Luka Doncic to make sure that he was also fully involved. But secondly, to make sure that the next steps that they took were prudent and made sense for Luka Doncic's timeline. So I'm glad they backtracked, and I'm glad that Luka is now locked in. And I think the Lakers can move forward with more confidence when it comes to trades and moves, and maybe even going all in. And in this episode, I will talk about some all-in trades, not just for stars. Today, I'm actually going to talk about all-in trade hypotheticals for multiple marginal starter level pieces now that we know that Luka is a Laker. Because I don't want to just focus on trading for Giannis, trading for Bam Adebayo, guys like those are easy targets to talk about. I want to see how creative the Lakers are in moneyballing this. Now that they know that Luka Doncic is here, I'm interested in seeing what other players Luka Doncic has on his list that he wants to play with. Because again, I think the scope is larger than fans think. I think the Giannis stuff, the Jokic stuff, that's for the casual fans, you know? That's been put out there so that casual fans know, hey, the Lakers are always going to star hunt. But in the background, they're thinking much bigger picture because they already have their star. It's Luka Doncic. And there are more ways to skin the cat than 1. Yeah, you guys get what I'm saying. Let's see. Where am I going with this episode right now? Should I jump into the trade talk? Let's see. Yeah. So again, I'll just pull up this quote again. Where is it? Yeah. So I'll wrap this up. This was a great day for Lakers Nation, Luka Doncic, and I'm very happy about this burgeoning partnership between the two because it does really feel like a partnership. And it's why we do have the bargain deals we have this offseason. It's also why Jackson Hayes has been re-signed to more than a minimum deal. Is anybody complaining about Jackson Hayes today? No, I don't think so, because Jackson Hayes is part of WME, Luka's agency, and it's all part of the plan, folks. It's all part of the Luka Doncic plan, which also involves the Lakers now. And that is all great. So we are going to talk trades now, unless anybody has any questions about the Luka stuff. I mean, that's pretty much all I have with regards to today. I could keep waxing stupid, mediocre, poetic that you've already heard, but I feel like I'll just get to the trade hypotheticals and we can run through them. But before we get to that, just throw up the agenda so people know. So yes, we'll talk all in trades now and what the front office can do moving forward now that they have a clearer idea of what their Luka era vision looks like. But before we get to the trade talk, I want to first talk to you guys about a new book by author Carl Barney regarding something we all strive for, and that's happiness. And Luka and Lakers fans are very happy today. Because you weren't born to coast through life, you were born to feel alive, to wake up with energy, to live a life that excites you. And the new book, The Happiness Experiment, is the tool to help you do just that. It's not fluff, it's a practical system to help you find your unique version of joy, meaning, and drive. It's time to stop surviving, time to start thriving. And if you want to learn more, take a few minutes at the end of this podcast and listen to an interview about the happiness experiment and how you can bring it to life. Discover your unique happiness type by taking the free assessment at myhappinesstype.com. That's myhappinesstype.com. Then grab your copy of the happiness experiment at booksamillion.com. That's booksamillion.com. All right, we'll pitch it to our sponsors. And when we return, let's get into some all-in marginal hypothetical trades surrounding Luka Doncic. All right, so we are back. Let me just pull this image up one more time. Let's talk trades, shall we? Because again, I think this Luka extension does so much for the front office in terms of the trade department. We can put our best foot forward. We can enter trade negotiations without looking so desperate. And we know Luka has our back. He's signing off on all of these deals. Again, we want to improve upon our Mark Williams wheeling and dealings. I think Luka knows that himself. And now that he has a better understanding of the Lakers cap and the Lakers assets, I think we will be much more judicious moving forward with our next move. But I think now that Luka Doncic is fully on board, I think the Lakers will be aggressive. I think they'll be smartly aggressive, though. We don't want to just trade for Andrew Wiggins and give up everything for Andrew Wiggins because Luka Doncic is on board. Because to Rob Pelinka's point, we're thinking optionality and flexibility here. We want to be able to move freely now that Luka Doncic is a Laker for the next 3 years. And we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into crap. We're stuck with Mark Williams and re-signing Mark Williams to his next $25 million contract. Crap, we're stuck with Andrew Wiggins' $30 million player option next year when this guy is becoming available and we could trade for him, but right, nobody wants Andrew Wiggins. Like, we want to be able to make sure that we can move fluidly. So trades. I don't want to talk about superstar trades because I think that's lowest common denominator type stuff. I want to talk about what an all-in trade for multiple marginal pieces looks like around Luka Doncic. Again, I know the Lakers will still probably prioritize a Giannis or even a Jokic type trade if that ever becomes a possibility. But let's say Luka Doncic gives Rob Pelinka the blessing to go quote unquote all in on upgrading the roster with 2 or 3 legitimate starter level players. What would that look like? And again, they already went in for Mark Williams, so we kind of showed our hand there. But hopefully we can now get something better than Mark Williams, and hopefully we can get something more than Mark Williams to address several areas of need on this roster. So I think a marginal trade. First, I'll tell you what going all in looks like. I think the Lakers all in package right now involves all of their expiring contracts, Maxi, Gabe, and also Rui Hachimura, who is more than just an expiring contract. I think he's actually a valuable young piece. So I think the Lakers quote unquote all in package right now would be Rui, Maxi, Gabe, throw in Dalton Connect as well, because he's still, a recent former first round pick, even though obviously his trade value has kind of taken a dip. And then beyond that, the Lakers also have their 2031st first and a couple of pick swaps. They also have 1 second, and then come 2026 draft night, they'll be able to trade their 2026 first as well. But let's say the Lakers want to make an quote unquote all-in trade this season. What would that look like? It's going to look like Rui, Maxi, Gabe, Dalton, 2031st first, and swaps. That is $44.7 million of salary, $40 million of which are expiring. So that's what the Lakers quote unquote all-in package would look like. With that package, what marginal trade can the Lakers concoct where they're getting 2 or 3 starter level players back? So for me, I think the Lakers are looking for something like a much better version of the 2023 deal that they struck with the Utah Jazz, where they traded Westbrook and a first for D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, and Malik Beasley. At that time, you could argue that the Lakers got back 2.5 starters between D'Lo, Vando, and Beasley, right? And they were able to also offload Russell Westbrook, even though he was just an expiring. So if the Lakers were able to get D'Lo, Vando, Beasley for Westbrook and a first, what could they get for a 2031st first, Rui, Maxi, Gabe, Dalton? And I think Dalton and Rui are still very valuable players, or at least contributing players. So it's a much better package than Westbrook and a first. So I'm expecting an upgraded version of D'Lo, Vando, Beasley. Now, what would that look like? So I have a couple of ideas. Before I throw them out, though, I'm going to heavily caveat this section because these are half-baked thoughts, okay? I am just workshopping this to the public. I'm not saying these are likely to happen. I'm not saying these are trades I prefer or would prioritize over better premium ones. I'm just saying these are deals that would work financially come the trade deadline, and these are deals that would give the Lakers several different pieces who might click. I understand that deals like these that I'm about to throw are likely require a third or fourth team to make work. I understand that the trades don't often include 8 players going out in total, et cetera, et cetera. But just these are all hypothetical deals, right? Just go with the flow. Don't be one of those guys on X and nitpick. Just digest the general framework and general notion of these deals. And remember, I'm not saying the Lakers should do these. These are just trades to think about. These are hypothetical packages that are, at the very least, interesting to consider, and packages that we can kind of rejigger if the value doesn't make sense, because things always change in the NBA, right? A month ago, Dalton Connect's, maybe, or I guess 2 months ago, Dalton Connect's trade value looked better than it does now after Summer League. So yeah, again, these are hypothetical packages that are at the very least worth considering, even if ultimately it may not make sense for one side or even both sides. So now that I've heavily caveated all those things, who's ready for some very premature, all-in marginal trades? Raise your hand. All right, let me get my slides up. Let me just make sure I have the right view. Oh, that's not the right view. All right, first deal. Okay, so let's try and concoct a trade with the Atlanta Hawks. Again, for all of these deals, we are going to be sending out the Lakers' current best all-in package. I'm not including Austin Reeves in this because I think the Lakers fully intend to re-sign Austin Reeves. So for most of these packages, Rui, Maxey, Gabe, Dalton, 2031st first are going out. So let us look at this Atlanta Hawks deal. Rui, Gabe, Maxey, Dalton. I forgot to put the 2031st first in here, but the 2031st first will be included in here. 4, and again, I'm not saying I would do this. I'm saying this deal works. I'm using Spotrac, by the way, to help make this all happen and make the numbers work. Those 4 players and the first 4, Onyeka Okongwu, who's on for 3 more years at a very reasonable contract of about $15 to $16 million per year. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, newly signed Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Luke Kennard, he's just in there for salary matching purposes, and he's expiring, so it's not a big deal. And Vit Krejci, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Vit Krejci is a 6'8" versatile point guard who's a career 39% three-point shooter and shot 43% last season on 1.6 three-point makes. So he's low-key very good, especially at that size. He's like a 6'8" point guard who can shoot. So don't, I don't even know what the phrase is. Don't turn your nose at Victor Krejci or Vit Krejci. Anyways, I understand. I see some comments. There's no way the Hawks would accept this. I have already heavily caveated this section, folks. In the hypothetical that Trae Young gets injured next season and things aren't working out and they want to blow things up, because that is always a possibility with the NBA these days. Things change very quickly. In that hypothetical where they decide and they have buyer's remorse, hey, we don't want Nickeil Alexander-Walker anymore, and actually we want to move on from Onyeka Okongwu. In the hypothetical that both teams are willing to come to the table, this is a deal that works out financially that I would do if I were the Lakers and if the Atlanta Hawks were willing. The Lakers get Onyeka Okongwu, so there's your sort of like power forward, 6'9" versatile power forward of the future next to Luka Doncic, and he's a guy who could honestly also play next to DeAndre Ayton. Nice energy big who can rebound the ball, but also has offensive versatility. He can hit the three-point shot. He kind of reminds me of a poor man's Dollar Tree version of Bam Adebayo. So you get Onyeka Okongwu for the future, who's very young, and he's still on for 3 years at a very, very cheap contract. And then you get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who you wanted this season anyways, to be the Lakers' new point of attack wing defender. Luke Kennard, whatever, expiring, and then Vit Krejci. Again, low-key underrated piece in this deal. 6'8" versatile point guard who's a career 39% three-point shooter. So it sounds like you guys think the Atlanta Hawks won't do this deal, which means if they were willing to do this deal for whatever reason, because their season has gone under, we should do this type of deal. And I think this is the type of deal that the Lakers should be very open to, quote unquote, going all in for. And I agree. Maybe the Hawks won't. This is an unlikely trade, right? But again, in the event that things go south and they're just like, hey, give us your 2031st first, and we'll take a flyer on Dalton Connect. Maybe we want to re-sign Rui Hachimura. If they're willing to do that, this is like a no-brainer for the Lakers to do, right? Or this is like a pipe dream, most ideal scenario. These are 3 different pieces, maybe 2, Onyeka Okongwu and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I think would fit perfectly for the Lakers and address 2 different needs for us, right? Onyeka Okongwu kind of fills that like semi-rim protector, but also pick and pop big need. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker fits that point of attack defense need. And Victor Krejci, 6'8" versatile point guard. You know, he can pass and also hit 3-pointers. But again, to people's point in the comments, the Hawks probably won't accept this. But again, this is the type of deal that I think the Lakers should be looking for with their 2031st first. I do probably have to mention that I guess Luka's signing this extension might make teams think that 2031st first is now lessened in value because he's probably just going to re-sign that supermax with the Lakers coming off of this deal. So we do have to keep that in mind. Like maybe the 2031st first no longer has the same value that it did have before this extension. So maybe these deals actually are more pipe dreams for the Lakers, but in our most ideal scenario where everything aligns, I think these are the types of deals the Lakers could look at. So let's move on to the second deal. This one's a little bit of a weird one. Let's not do that one. Okay. So same package, right? We're going to trade Rui, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect. We had to give up some assets to the Brooklyn Nets to take on Jared Vanderbilt's salary to make this work. So this is a 3-team deal with the Toronto Raptors, Lakers, and the Brooklyn Nets. The Lakers and the Raptors had to give up some pick compensation, like second-round picks, to the Brooklyn Nets in order to dump Jared Vanderbilt to free up the money. And then the Raptors are going to get Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect, and the 2031 first. Meanwhile, the Lakers get RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, and Ochai Agbaji. Ochai Agbaji is, I believe, expiring or only has 1 year left. RJ Barrett has 2. Jakob Poeltl has 2 as well. I can't even read my own this image. But anyways, this works financially if the Lakers are able to offload Jared Vanderbilt and the Raptors take on these expiring contracts. What do you guys think about an RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, Ochai Agbaji deal? This one I'm kind of lukewarm on because RJ Barrett's such a strange player. He still has potential, but if he doesn't have the ball in his hands and he's not allowed to sort of be a bucket, who is he really? He's not a bad player. He's not a role player, but he's also not a superstar. And the problem might be for RJ Barrett, the fact that he's not a role player and he doesn't have a fully defined role yet. He's like he's not a great defender consistently. So what does he really do if his shot's not falling, if he's not able to shake and bake a little bit? Jakob Poeltl is an interesting big. He's not exactly the lob threat that you'd want next to Luka, but he is a rim protector. So if we're able to get a backup big who's more of that vertical alley-oop threat, then maybe trading for a Jakob Poeltl might work because he's that enforcer in the paint, that bruiser who takes up space. And then Ochai Agbaji, I actually think he's probably the more intriguing part of this deal just because he's still young. He's like very well built. He's 6'6". He's shown some flashes of good defensive positional versatility. So yeah, it's just a deal to consider. RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, Ochai Agbaji. Will you guys do that deal? Or would you swap somebody out from the Raptors? Would you do Brandon Ingram instead of RJ Barrett? I actually don't think I would do that. I think I like RJ Barrett more than Brandon Ingram at this point, even though the reunion story with Brandon Ingram would be cool. I just think Brandon Ingram needs the ball even more than RJ Barrett does. But yeah, again, this is another example of a deal that works financially if all teams are able to make this work, where the Lakers are getting 3 different positions of need. Even if RJ Barrett doesn't work out, maybe Ochai Agbaji does, and maybe Luka is able to unlock him. And then Jakob Poeltl, he's a very meat and potato center. He's not that exciting, but you know that he's a starting level center, right? And so Jakob Poeltl, RJ Barrett's sort of like the mystery wild card here, along with Ochai Agbaji. But you kind of also know who RJ Barrett is if given the opportunity and the usage. The problem is, what if he doesn't have the usage? Will he be able to find his role? If the Lakers can turn RJ Barrett into Andrew Wiggins, if Luka is able to turn RJ Barrett into Andrew Wiggins, that might be huge. And I believe they're both from Canada as well. The Maple Mamba. Was that Andrew Wiggins' nickname or is that RJ Barrett's? I'm not sure if RJ Barrett adopted the Maple Mamba after Andrew Wiggins. But yeah, this is another deal where, again, the Lakers get several pieces. Maybe they address them. It's a little bit more wishy-washy than the Atlanta Hawks deal for sure, because these are players who are sort of like good, but not great. But I think this is a deal that I would still accept. All right, the next one, I know people are going to kind of lose their minds and say, there's no way the Pistons are going to do this. Like, I agree. But we're playing hypotheticals, right? And we're jigsawing the situations in which an opportunity presents itself for the Lakers, a previously unrealistic opportunity, and the Lakers capitalize on it. Kind of like the Luka Doncic trade. So I'll move on. Trade number 3 is going to be with the Detroit Pistons. So we're going to trade Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect, and the 2031st first. I don't have to go through the litany of why the Pistons would do this. They probably won't, but let's say their season spirals. Jaden Ivey is coming off of a pretty bad injury. They have front office changes, et cetera, et cetera. They just want to rejigger things, and they actually need some shooting, even though they signed Duncan Robinson. So Dalton Connect would help. And they just want the Lakers 2031 first. Maybe since Tobias Harris is going to be an expiring, they want to take a flyer on Rui Hachimura. Let's just say the Pistons want to do this, okay? Rui gave Maxi Dalton 2031 first for Isaiah Stewart. He's on for 3 more years at a flat $50 million. Now, Isaiah Stewart, problematic figure, but Luka does need his bulldog and his enforcer, and that would be Isaiah Stewart, the best bodyguard you could have, and one of the most underrated small ball big men in the NBA from a defensive standpoint. He's actually a great rim protector, and his motor is insane. You guys know this about Isaiah Stewart. And then we also get Karis LeVert, $14 million. He's on for 2 more years. He just recently signed with the Pistons, actually. So Karis LeVert, he's aging at this point. We kind of know who he is. His ceiling is capped, but that's still a great guard off the bench who's rangy and long, can play defense, a little bit streaky offensively, but he can handle the ball. So you get another like 6'6" sort of wing who can handle the ball for you off the bench. And then Jaden Ivey, he is actually expiring this year. I think this is the last year of his rookie contract before the Pistons have to make a decision on his next deal. And honestly, this might all be moot because I think he's extension eligible. So in the next 2 minutes, maybe they sign Jaden Ivey to his next extension. But in the event that they don't come to an extension agreement with Jaden Ivey, then, the alarm bells should be ringing. And that would make Jaden Ivey more available. And Jaden Ivey is the type of player that I would absolutely take a flyer on next to Luka Doncic. He has improved tremendously as a 3-point shooter this last season. Again, he is coming off a pretty bad injury, but I just love his athleticism, his speed, and his burst. And I think it would be a great complement and combination to Luka Doncic, even with Austin Reeves on the roster. And, I'm not even sure that like Jaden Ivey wouldn't be a great 6-man off the bench sort of microwave scorer, even though I think he's a starter level type player. I wouldn't mind him coming off the bench. And maybe once Austin Reeves signs his new extension, we eventually pivot Austin Reeves to the bench and play a backcourt of Jaden Ivey and Luka Doncic to have that. You have that slow man's crafty pace game. And then on the other end, you got that speed punch and that athletic dynamicness from Jaden Ivey. So this is the Pistons deal. Isaiah Stewart, Karis LeVert, Jaden Ivey. I would 100% do this deal if I were the Lakers, and I would go all in and push all of our assets in for this type of deal. Would the Pistons do it? Who knows? Maybe not. But if for some reason the opportunity presents itself and the context makes sense for both parties, I would do this deal if I were the Lakers. All right, last deal, because I got to end this soon. Trade number 4 is with the Chicago Bulls. Lakers are trading out the same package: Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect, the 2031 first. And the Lakers are in return acquiring Zach Collins, expiring $18 million. Patrick Williams, he's on for 14 more years. Patrick Williams is on for 4 more years. He's kind of got a problematic contract, $18 million those next 4 years. So it's almost a crippling contract. And then an expiring Ayo Dosunmu at $7 million. So I actually don't like this trade because the Lakers are almost doing the Bulls a favor here by taking on Patrick Williams 4 years. It depends on how you feel about Patrick Williams, because he has shown flashes of being a very versatile defender. And he has shown flashes of being a pretty good offensive player. He just hasn't been able to put it all together. But at the end of the day, Patrick Williams is a 6'7", 3-and-D wing. He kind of reminds me of like a younger DFS in a sense. So as the cap rises, can the Lakers stomach $18 million of Patrick Williams 3 years from now? If they can, and they think they can mold him into the 3-and-D wing that he always should have been, I would be maybe more open to this deal. Zach Collins is also an interesting big, because there's your pick and pop big, right? He's a guy who plays with motor. He can pass the ball a little bit as a big man. He rebounds the ball. He can shoot the three. He's on an expiring deal. He's maybe more of a flyer in this sense. But again, this is the problem with this deal is Zach Collins is expiring, and so is Ayo Dosunmu, who would be sort of the prize gem of this, trade. If Ayo Dosunmu were locked up for the next 3 years on a $12 million contract, I think this deal would make more sense for the Lakers. But I don't know if I'd give up the 2031 first, Rui Hachimura, Dalton Connect for an expiring Ayo Dosunmu, for the rights to pay Ayo Dosunmu whatever his next contract is, and then 4 years more of Patrick Williams, and then a flyer on Zach Collins. I don't know. Maybe Luka would want that type of flyer, and the Lakers are pretty confident that, we'll be able to re-sign Zach Collins and Ayo Dosunmu. We like this core. Lakers are giving up best, third, and fourth best players here. Possibly. I think Rui Hachimura at this point is probably better than Patrick Williams. But yeah, I think something to consider, though, is how we're adjusting the value of the 2031 first, now that we know that Luka is on board. Prior to Luka signing this extension, I thought it would have been crazy to trade the 2031 first for anything but a star. But now that we know he's probably going to be a Laker for life, that 2031 first kind of loses its value. And so we kind of have to reframe and rejigger our mindset a little bit to the point where, yeah, on the surface, Pat Williams, Zach Collins, Ayo Dosunmu, this is a very uninspiring trade package, right? But you could convince me if we're able to rejigger this, rework the framework a little bit. I think I would do it, obviously, if Kobe White was in this trade, but at the same time, Kobe White is expiring, and we would also be trading for the rights to sign Kobe White to his next $25 million contract. So I don't know about that. But yeah, again, this is just a hypothetical. These are half-baked ideas of mine, and they are ones that actually work financially thanks to Spotrac. But I think what I wanted to present here is just other avenues that the Lakers can go, quote unquote, go all in, but not necessarily for a superstar, but for several starter level pieces who could actually fit well around Luka Doncic, and getting 2 or 3 different players who address several areas of need for the Lakers. Because realistically, what is Rui Hachimura, Dalton Connect, 2031 first going to get you? Like, what superstar is that package going to get you now that teams know Luka Doncic is a Laker for life, quote unquote, Laker for life, crossing fingers, etc. So with that said, I do think Rob was smart to say in his press conference today, this is not just about trying to get the next superstar. This is trying to keep our options open. This is trying to keep ourselves nimble, keep the flexibility around Luka fluid, so that we can be modular in the way that we reshape this roster around Luka Doncic. And also, right now, LeBron James' situation is very fluid as well. So we have to keep that in mind. So that does it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening and watching. I do want to, now that I have your attention, before I wrap this up, I forgot to add some things in here that I wanted to tell you guys about. Well, first off, if you guys could please subscribe to this channel. My last video, I had Chris Magnon on, Lakers' newest two-way defensive guard. If you guys haven't checked that video out, please do so. I do want to say that, hold on. Sorry, guys. I'm have to rework some things here. Let me remove that. Let me remove that. 1 second. Technical behind the curtain stuff here. 1 second. But yes, please subscribe to this channel. Please like this video. Please comment down below and do all the things. I have been working overtime to get this content out to you guys. I was really proud of my interview with Chris Magnon. So again, please check that out. I'm also working on a full comprehensive breakdown of his college tape and just his strengths and weaknesses. I did do a breakdown of his summer league, so watch that video as well. Hold on, I need to pull up one additional thing. So the other thing I wanted to say is, my my wife is watching. Happy 1-year anniversary, and that is what I wanted to bring up, actually. So 8/2 is also an important day for me, because 8/2 is the day that I as I bring this image up. 8-2 marks my 1-year anniversary on this YouTube journey. And for those who don't know, I have been doing the Lakers Legacy podcast thing for the last decade. I started this podcast back in 2015 when nobody else had podcasts. Now everybody and their moms has a podcast, right? But I started back in 2015 when I had to upload our episodes to SoundCloud and then link it to Apple iTunes because there weren't as many different platforms that you could sort of upload your podcast onto. So people have been telling me to get on YouTube for the longest while. I just never had the bandwidth. I was working on my writing career. I'm a screenwriter. And so my time was tied up. I couldn't fully invest in this. But last year had a longer than expected work gap. And I decided, let me just go all in on this YouTube thing, try it out, see where it goes for a couple of months. And now we are here a year later. I am 3.8K plus subscribers later. And thanks to you guys for all of your support and helping me get to this stage. And I just wanted to throw up my very first video and compare it to my very last video. So for those who are watching, my very first video was ironically about Dalton Connect being trade eligible, last 8/2/24. And if you see the video above, very bad angle, very bad lighting. I don't know what the hell I was doing. I was still sort of trying to find my voice, trying to find my editing style. And yeah, I mean, I have a professional camera, but for whatever reason, the first video that I did, I decided to just use my iPhone 8 or whatever to film everything. Bad mistake. Again, I didn't know what I was doing, but through countless trial and errors and through 140 videos later, I've made 140 videos in this last year. And it has helped me kind of hone my style, hone my editing skills, my marketing skills. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I only started doing lives this past July when free agency started. So I say all that to say I'm kind of reflecting and rambling a little bit, but this has been quite a fulfilling year for me, starting this whole YouTube venture. And you guys have been a big part of that. And again, I throw this picture up, my first video at the top, talking about should the Lakers trade Dalton Connect because he's now trade eligible. And here we are again. Time is a flat circle. Here we are again talking about Dalton Connect and trading him. So that was my first video, badly lit, bad angle. My eyesight and eye line is everywhere. And then you compare that to my very last video, an interview with Chris Magnon, Lakers' new two-way guard. And I've come a long way, and it's been largely thanks to you guys. Please help continue supporting. Please continue to tune in to these lives. If you want to support me, links are below. Buy me a coffee, Patreon. And also, I started this new thing on my channel for members. And thank you to those who actually have subscribed to be a member, where I kind of post more of my raw thoughts and my half-baked ideas, kind of like what I just did today. I have some exclusive videos up there for members only for a small fee of like $3.99. And I plan to do a lot more exclusive videos on there because they're just easy for me to do and I don't have to worry about fully editing myself. But if you want to get what's inside this demented head of mine, consider being a member. You help support me, and I will make sure that it's worth your time as well. So thank you to those who have already done that, especially Daniel Phillips. I know he subscribed recently to become a member. We have the two-way contract, $3.99, and the starter level, $9.99, available. But yeah, I say all that to say thank you guys for your support. Again, it's been a journey. This YouTube thing has. It's been exciting. It's been very creatively fulfilling. And yeah, I think I'll end it there. Thank you to those saying congrats. Also, there is a link in this description box for a America's Favorite Couple contest. America's Favorite Couple contest that my wife and I are currently a part of. Jeff Goldblum is attached to it for some reason. Anyways, we are, let me just pull up Luka Doncic's picture here. So it kind of looks weird. Why am I up here? So me and my wife actually made it to the finalist rounds. And thank you to all of those who actually have voted in the past. If I could ask you guys to please do so again, all you have to do is link your Facebook account and just click like. It's a free like and a free vote. Find it in the link in the description box below. If we could get your votes to help us move on, that would be amazing. Winner for America's Favorite Couple gets $20K, and we could really use that because we just got married in June. But yeah, otherwise, thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for just tuning in. Thank you guys for consuming my content. Thank you guys for putting up with my ramblings and my weird ass trade ideas. Yeah, I'm excited for this upcoming year now that I've kind of got my footing underneath me. I feel like Luka Doncic. By the way, here's my buff Luka shirt again. Very fitting for the times, emphasis on fitting, no pun intended on fitting. But yeah, I'll end this here. I got to get ready. I got to go. But yeah, big day for Lakers Nation. Thank you guys for watching. Follow me on X at Lakers Legacy Pod. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel at Lakers Legacy Pod. Vote for us, America's favorite couple, and all the support links below. With that said, this has been Jonathan Hernandez of the Lakers Legacy Podcast. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.